Hello and welcome back to Art by the Lake. We had such fun yesterday with our messy 5 or 6 color pour. We're going to do another big 16 by 20 canvas. Today we're going to do 10 colors. We're going to do it all in one big Pyrex measuring cup. As I calculate, that's about 20 ounces. I've done about 2 ounces of each color. I'll run them down very quickly for you. I have made all these colors by hand, so they're a little bit of a blend of different things. Most of them are Handy Art acrylic paint, and that comes from Walmart. I do, in most of these mixes, 1 ounce of Floetrol, half an ounce of paint, and half an ounce of distilled water. I mix the paint and the Floetrol together, then I add the water. I have added between 4 and 10 drops of silicone in each one. I vary it based on the color. And in the last 2 colors down here that you can see, the phthalo green and this sort of cobalt blue, I'm testing out a new silicone dimethicone. It's sort of a syrupy version of silicone. We'll see. It's already bubbling up, and it's so syrupy, I've actually mixed that in. We're going to do a black base. I'll get that going with my trowel, and then we're going to fill the dirty cup pour, and away we go. If you get a kick out of this, please subscribe to us on YouTube, and we are Art by the Lake. I have a time lapse running as well. And you can hear in the background. Hopefully it works a little bit better this time. We've switched up the lighting. We had a really massive glare across here from an overhead light. We've switched that up quite a bit. We've also changed the autofocus settings on the camera so that it's not searching all the time for focus. So I'm just going to move these paints a little bit, make a little bit of room here, and we're going to get some black on the canvas. And I've mixed up a lot of black here, but again, it's mostly so that we can get the edges right and so that it helps the paint flow correctly. And hopefully we have enough, but we'll know shortly. I'm also going to use black in the pour, in the dirty cup, so I want to save some of that as well. And we'll try to get the edges here. And I will recycle some of this off the edge of the canvas, off the base of the work surface here, if need be. I'll probably bop around on this side to see. I probably can't really see if I have full coverage over here yet. We'll see as we get going. So we had a good time with yesterday's painting. I'll have to show it to you. It's sitting behind me drying. It came out really nice. The colors dried, the cells popped. It pretty much did what we wanted it to do. It came out very Hubble telescope, and I like that look. Today we're going to do a swirl pour. If you've never seen a swirl pour, it's a technique where you do tiny little swirls with the dirty cup. And again, you'll see we're going to have about 20 ounces of paint in the dirty cup, so we will have our hands full. As I mentioned in previous videos, we try to keep these videos down to around 20 minutes. If you see me jump out and reset the camera, it's because of a 20-minute limitation on the camera that I'm using today. We think after 20 minutes or so, people kind of lose their attention span and tune out. So we try to keep these things around 20-25 minutes tops. So you can see I'm just trying to get some paint on the canvas, just trying to smooth some of this black around. I think with 20-some ounces of paint ultimately being poured on the canvas, we'll have plenty of black, plenty of paint. If you hear beeping in the background, that's our time-lapse camera running. It's sometimes cool to see the whole process from end to end very quickly. And so we do time-lapse. Not everybody does it, but we like to do it. Again, we are Art by the Lake. If you like what you see, follow us on YouTube. You can find us on Etsy and on eBay. If you have any interest in purchasing any of these paintings, you can find them on Etsy and eBay. Usually takes me a couple weeks to get everything dry and get the painting coated the way I want to. Sometimes we do resin, sometimes we do varnish, sometimes we don't do anything. I'm trying to get the bug out of my face first. I'm trying to get black around the edges here. As far as prep, we have put push pins in this one so that it stands up off the work surface. I have also got the canvas wet and dry several times so that the canvas will stretch to avoid puddling. I know we mention these things a lot, but different members of our audience tune in and out for different videos. Not everybody follows the sequence of all of our videos, even though we would like you to. If you're interested, we have recipe videos, we have shopping list videos, we have all sorts of stuff. So, there's our black. This is the cup I'm going to do the dirty pour in. You will see I'm doing something a little bit unusual here, but we're going to start out with white. I'm also going to pour every subsequent color softly so that we keep them as separate as possible. I'm actually using the white left over from yesterday. So you'll see I try to go soft down the inside of the cup here. As I mentioned in my previous videos, I also try to pour down the side that has the pour spout. And that way it doesn't upset the mix as much. Somewhere along the line here, when we get all of these colors in, and I'm not really setting much aside, you'll see. When we get all of these colors in, I will switch hands to make it a little bit easier to pour. I'm right-handed. So it's a very subtle pouring motion. It's a swirling motion. And you'll see the effect is real interesting. We expect the sort of purplish dark color here to dominate. But we'll see. So my yellow, my white is in, my yellow is in, my orange is in, my deep orange is going in now. You can see that's kind of an interesting contrast color. When I am pouring these, I'm sure it's going to get quiet because the technique is a little bit tricky. So don't be alarmed if I don't say anything while I'm doing the actual swirl pour. There goes my magenta. I do choose the colors themselves very specifically for what I'm trying to achieve. And you'll see as you learn that the sequence of colors can really be interesting. I have chosen to use phthalo green. Phthalo green has been my nemesis in a lot of pours. I don't know why, but phthalo green just does not want to behave the way I want it to behave. And it's a love-hate relationship because even though I don't always have good luck with it, I for some reason keep using it. So I must like the torture or enjoy wasting phthalo green more than any other color. So we're coming down to a darker purple here. You'll see the cup is getting really, really full. I do anticipate that with 2 ounces of each color and about 10 colors, that I will have about 20 ounces of paint. And on a 16 by 20 canvas, that is quite a bit of paint. You can always get an idea of how your paint will behave a little bit as you're pouring it into the dirty pour cup. I can see some cells forming in here already. I'm going to give the blue one last little mix. This is our first cup with the silicone dimethicone. So let's see how that behaves on the painting and in the dirty cup. So there goes my sort of a cobalt blue color, I would call it. And here comes our Phthalo Nemesis green. Maybe I'll name the painting Nemesis. If you have ideas for names on these paintings, I know that you don't always see the finished product during the video, but if you have an idea for a name on these paintings, by all means comment on YouTube. And thank everyone for their comments. We've had a good time with the comments. I'm going to finish this up with black. And so if I could hold this cup sideways and show you, I would, but I can't. So I'm going to switch hands as I mentioned. I'm trying to keep this at the same angle and get ready for the quiet portion as I do the swirl dirty pour. Here we go. It's a very slow pour, by the way. I try to pour as minimal amount of paint as possible. And you'll see that that swirl stays dead center, down in very, very small motions. We have made sure that the canvas itself is very, very level, because with this much paint, it may have the tendency to run. I purposely started early with the phthalo in the black because I don't want them to remain on the painting, and I have a feeling that the colors that I pour early will end up being migrated off the edges of the canvas. So as much as I say phthalo green is my nemesis, I was planning to dump it off the edge of the canvas anyway. So we're getting into the deep orange now. We're still migrating. We still have quite a bit of paint to go before we get to the light orange, the yellow, and the white. And they will be at the very, very end of this. So far, so good. We will do some tilting in this one, but we'll see how much and when. If you're into exercise or physical therapy, this is pretty good physical therapy. My Pyrex container here is pretty heavy on its own. And then add another 20 ounces of paint and try to hold it up above the painting while you pour very, very slowly and gently is good exercise. So lots of orange coming out. I have not seen any yellow or any white just yet. They are at the very end. We're still getting some interesting magentas and blues, but mostly dark orange. I'm watching to see how the silicone dimethicone behaves. And if you remember, that is in the phthalo green and that cobalt blue along the very outer edges of the painting. If you haven't heard of that, it's a stickier, syrupy kind of silicone. It's available online. I think mine came from eBay. Be prepared if you go to use it. It's thicker, so it's harder to work with. It's harder to get it cleanly out of the bottle and into the paint. But where normal silicone, you don't want to mix a whole lot unless you want little tiny cells. Silicone dimethicone, because of the syrupy nature, it would seem to me, at least in my experimentation, that you want to mix it quite a bit. And that really evenly distributes it through the paint, which is a good thing. So still not seeing a whole lot of white or yellow. They have to be in there somewhere. We're coming to the bottom of the cup. The paint is doing some really interesting things. My arm and back are getting tired. As you do these paintings, at least for me, as I'm actually painting or pouring, I have thoughts about what the next one will be and what I will do differently. And so it's a learning experimentation sort of thing. If you like that kind of thing, if you like chaos like I do, and I like chaos, this is the painting for you. It's hard to go wrong. Keep in mind here, even if you make a massive mistake and you really hate the painting, they make this stuff called gesso, and it's white. And you can go out and buy white gesso, and you can paint, after your painting dries, you can paint right over the top. Or you can just scrape it all off. I know people that even will scrape the paint back into the center of the painting and just wait and see what they get. Okay, we're getting down to the white. I see a little white and yellow finally. Not as much yellow as I thought. You know, along the lines of what would I do differently next time. Next time I might double some of these colors. Double yellow maybe. Or cut in half the orange maybe. Do something along that line. My arm has officially reached burnout. Okay, you can see I'm down to the last little drips here. I'll let it drip a little bit just to get some interesting colors in the center. Okay. Woo! If you look down our cup, it's kind of cool. In doing that, I just dripped a little white out in the middle. That's going to be interesting. So I'm going to let that sit for a minute. I'm going to, we're getting around 17 minutes here, 18 minutes. I'm going to reset the video camera and I will be right back. And we're back. So I widened it out a little bit because this area down in here really wasn't appearing on the camera. So let's fill in some black here on the edges. And I'm debating sort of whether I want to tilt this or not. I kind of like it. And I kind of think I might not tilt it. But let's just wait and see how we go here. Just covering up some sort of bare spots here that I'm noticing, or some low areas on the canvas. I'm going to leave that alone for the moment. I'm going to get the torch out and start torching some of these areas. See if we can get some interesting cells going here. If you're saying that that big white spot out in the middle there is making you crazy, I hear you, but sometimes these things, there's not a lot you can do. And I actually think if I dribble a tiny bit of orange in there, the orange might, white likes to sink, and this orange seems to like to float. So I'm going to just dribble a little bit of orange in that and see what happens when we hit it with the flame. Unless you like the smell of burning paint, keep your torch moving. If you like the smell of burning paint and you don't mind ruining your picture, you can hold stationary on one spot and burn a big hole in it. I have seen videos online of people actually burning the canvas itself, so I don't think you want to do that. And I gotta say, the torch is not having a big effect, so we're going to let it rest here for a little bit and just see where we come out. I don't see anything really that I don't like. I am going to give it a little bit of a tilt and head it out in sort of the direction of the camera. And then give it one little tilt back my way here. I don't want to lose too much of the green and blue down at the bottom down here. So I'm being very careful. Trying to keep this centered for the time-lapse camera. Okay. I'll wipe off my gloves here. I like to wear the gloves just because I don't like washing paint off my hands all that much. At some point they're easier to abandon. We're going to try a little bit more torch here, and then I think we're going to call this one done. If you notice in my tilting, I managed to get rid of that annoying little white dribble up top up here. What's top for me is bottom for you, because the camera is oriented a different way. The phthalo and the blue came out really, really interesting here. From a cells standpoint, it looks as though the blue and green have some interesting cells, but the orange and the magenta out in here really have some interesting cells. This area over here is really, really crazy. So I'm going to call this one done. I'm going to let the time-lapse camera run for about 2 hours. So we see if this thing migrates. I'm going to probably hit it with the torch a few more times. So if you see the torch in the time-lapse, you shouldn't be alarmed. But come up with a name for this one. Email me at artbythelake@gmail.com. If you like it and you want to buy it, let me know. It will be on Etsy in 2 or 3 weeks, and it will be on eBay in 2 or 3 weeks. You can find us on Etsy and eBay. We are Art by the Lake in both locations. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you can. Comment. We love what people say in comments, and people have been very, very nice in comments. And we're okay with, constructive criticism. We're okay with whatever you want to say. I try to keep a shopping list in each video so that if you're interested in doing this on your own, and we think that's why you're watching, you can go out and buy these things. If you do buy them through us on Amazon, we get a few pennies, and I'm not exaggerating that. We do get a few pennies if you buy some stuff. So thank you for tuning in. We are Art by the Lake, and this has been a 10-color, 20-ounce, 16 by 20 canvas swirling dirty pour. Stay tuned for more, and thanks for joining us.